gonna try this DM's Guild review thing again. You guys didn't seem to really gravitate to the last one as much as my other videos, but I think this one's gonna change your mind. So this time, we have the Armorer's Handbook, Equipment Upgrades, and Rune Magic System for 5e. Let me tell you, this is something that I've been looking for a long time. I think you're gonna enjoy it too, so stay tuned. So, once again, I do want to thank everybody who started to go and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But I did want to point this out, that I'm not just making this up. Take a look. This is from my YouTube analytics as of this morning. Over 74% of you that have watched my videos in the past 28 days are not subscribed to the channel. I don't know what the unknown 3.6% is, but all I'm going to say is if you do enjoy what I do here on Nerd Immersion, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're just shy of 15,000, and a personal goal for me would be in July for my birthday. I'd love to hit 25,000. I know that's a lofty goal, but if 74% of you went ahead and subscribed, we'd absolutely blow past that. So that'd be sweet. That being said, let's talk about the Armorer's Hand Guide, or Handbook to Equipment and Rune Magic System for 5e. So the author you can see here is Heavy Arms. I do want to thank them for providing this copy of the book to me. That being said, this is still my opinion entirely of my own. You can see it was released on the 13th of January, so we're relatively frequent. We're less than a month from release date. It's already had 16 reviews on the DM's Guild, and it is 5 stars, and it's currently a best gold seller. So, it is $9.99 to pick up a copy of this, so I'm not going to go through the entirety of the book. There's a lot there, so it would take a long time, but I also don't want to discourage you from picking it up for yourself. So this is probably one of the best taglines for it right out the gate here, the first thing you see. The Armorer's Handbook is a complete equipment upgrade rule set that allows weapons and armor to grow along with your characters in an organic way that feels anchored in your setting. So this is one of my kind of pet peeves with 5e. I'm going to switch it back to me so you can just hear me complain for a little bit here. I miss things like the Arms and Equipment Guide and things like that from older editions. Other books that expand material. Now, really all we have in 5e, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this either as a player or as a DM, is base equipment that you get in the in the player's handbook, and then magic items. Yes, there are common magic items that were added significantly later if you have Xanathars, and they can kind of fill a gap of an in-between, like armor that looks cool and does cool things without being an outright mechanical benefit to you. But really, there's no way to upgrade your armor or your equipment or your weapons outside of either getting a magic version of them or having your DM create some sort of in-universe thing that lets you take a non-magical item and enchant it to be magical. One thing that I really liked from older editions was the idea of magical, or not even necessarily magical, but special materials. Right now, all we really have is adamantine and mithril in 5th edition, and those by and of themselves are magical equipment. If you want mithril armor, it's technically an uncommon magic item, as is adamantine armor. The only kind of thing you can get is like a draconic dragon scale mail is a specific set of scale mail that is magic in 5th edition, whereas in older editions, you could craft things from dragon parts. So you could skin a dragon and make dragon skin leather, and that could be something separate than doesn't have to be scale mail. You could make other things out of mithril, armor, weapons, whatever. You could get other unique materials. There was all sorts of things like ironwood and glamour weave and all crazy stuff. And that's not really a thing anymore. The only way to get improved equipment is to make it magic or get a magic item. And that is where this handbook really comes into play, because it does that and it makes things, you could do things that in a lot of sense kind of make sense in the overall world of a fantasy game, and it can fit in 5th edition. I don't think it's broken by any means. So chapter 1 is just upgrading equipment, which is what I'll call like mundane improvements. Chapter 2 is rune magic, which is more magical stuff. And then there's a little bit more here. You can see there's some stuff here from Sly Flourish and some other folks as well. So let's take a look. So, another simple thing that I find that I need to bring up because certain PDFs don't do it, they have things bookmarked on the left-hand side of your PDF so you can jump ahead to where you want to go. I don't know why people release PDFs and not have that. It's just dumb. So let's dive in. So I'm going to go through a couple of the different options here. They do have a little bit on balance, which I thought was kind of interesting here. Based on what's in the DMG and the equivalent power price, because it's ridiculous. Look at this. A very rare magic item in the DMG's price is anywhere from 5,000 to 50,000 gold pieces. That range is insane. But it says an uncommon item is 100 to 500 gold pieces. And then you can look at the uncommon magic items contained in the Dungeon Master's Guide. They vary immensely in what they do. Like, for instance, an item that sets your constitution to 20 is rare, but an item that sets your strength or intelligence to 19, that's to 19 is rare, but an item that sets your strength or your intelligence to 19 is uncommon. Is that the same? I don't know. Why is there no items that do that with dexterity? I digress. So, either way, this is several years of balance, they're saying, and basically what they think the equivalent power upgrade cost should be based on these different things here. Prices vary depending on requirement of the ability to overcome resistance, immunity, non-magical attacks, yada, yada, yada. Just an interesting little snippet here. So let's talk about upgrading your armor. They added this system called tags, and that's just basically the nature, how you're going to quantify this. So upgrades take the form of tags to add new properties to equipment. Each tag is unique and can only be applied to a piece of equipment once. Upgrading a piece of equipment with a new tag can only be performed by a dedicated NPC craft person of the appropriate discipline in a workshop environment. Upgrading a piece of equipment with a new tag in a skilled endeavor, taking anywhere from an hour to more than a week based on the task. On your adventures, you may come across equipment already possessing tags, either for sale, offered as rewards, or available through other means. Again, fantastic idea. I've struggled with this a lot because I want to breathe kind of my love of older editions and things that I feel are lacking in 5th edition into my own homebrew campaign and my homebrew world. And I've been trying to come up with a means of, like, am I going to add keen or brutal or different kinds of interesting weapon types? And this is honestly what I'm going to do. I'm so thankful that they reached out and sent this to me because I'm going to use it in my games. And then again, do you want to upgrade magic items? None of the upgrades presented here in this supplement confer magic item status to a piece of equipment, though certain upgrades may result in a piece of equipment being considered magical under certain circumstances. They renamed the armor to be more in line with actual historical armor, right? Like, it's not just called leather armor here. They're calling it gambeson, which really gambeson is a linen armor, but you get the point, right? Leather jerkin, mail shirt, lamellar, hauberk, brigandine, cuirass, half plate, and then plate mail. This is just making it more accurate to the medieval historical names of the different types of armor. Okay. So, and then again, same kind of stuff. Disadvantage on stealth check makes sense. They did add a buckler, which is just a smaller, if you're familiar with like a heater shield. I think the thing that a lot of people can think of is like a shield shape. Think of like the Hylian shield from Legend of Zelda. That's a heater shield, right? It looks like that. A buckler is a much smaller circular shield. That's only, in this case, provides a +1 AC, often used sign of like maybe in dueling with like you have a rapier or some sort of fencing implement and a small little shield. And then they actually added a tower shield, which is something that has existed in the past that they kind of did away with 5th edition. They brought it back. You can't make opportunity attacks while holding a tower shield. This is a very large, usually in previous edition, tower shields actually provided you cover because they were so big. This is going to give you a +3 to your AC, and you have to have a strength of 15 to even hold it, but you can't make opportunity attacks because it's too bulky. I like it. I think it makes sense. So then they come up with this idea of proofing your armor, right? So there are a number of options available to characters to upgrade their armor, from high-cost armor proofing to useful additions like insulation suitable for cold weather. Any prerequisite condition must be satisfied to apply a new tag as shown in the armor upgrades table. Typically, this takes an artisan a full day of work, minimum of 8 hours, to upgrade a suit of armor or shield with a new tag. Armor proofing. The proofing process normally requires a full work week, 5 days, and can only be undertaken by a master artisan. Once added, armor proofing tags can't be removed from a suit of armor. The primary method of upgrading armor proofing is the process of testing and improving an armor's suit of ability to withstand blows of various types below a certain threshold, being certified as a proof against swords, arrows, and warhammers. While all types of armor can be proofed against slashing damage, only medium and heavy armors can be proofed against piercing damage, and only heavy armor can be proofed against bludgeoning attacks. In addition to proofing, various other upgrades are available to armors, meeting their prerequisites for each, and so on. So let's just dive into the table here, right? So here is the list of armor proofing. We already discussed that you can proof armor in 3 stages. So light, medium, or heavy armor can be proofed, which is while wearing this armor, if you would take 6 or less non-magical slashing damage before resistance is applied, you take none of the damage. The second tier is if you would take 7 or less non-magical slashing or piercing damage. That's only applicable to medium or heavy armor that already has the first tier proofing tag. So this is multiple steps. And you can see the cost is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 gold, and we're talking 1, 2, and 3 weeks. So if you have applied the second tag, if you take 7 or less non-magical slashing or piercing damage before resistance, you take none. And if you're wearing heavy armor and get it proofed to a third tier, you would take 8 or less non-magical slashing, piercing, or bludgeoning. Okay, so then we have other things here, and these are very simple things that I really like breathable, right? 100 gold, light or medium armor, incompatible with the insulated tag. While wearing this, you have advantage on saving throws made against exhaustion due to extreme heat, which normally you have disadvantage if you're in medium or heavy armor while in areas of extreme heat. Burnished is for heavy armor. It's been polished to a mirror finish. While wearing it, you have advantage on charisma skill checks interacting with certain humanoids. Again, you have shiny armor. You're going to be good in maybe high society. Climbing harness, right? It's been modified with a climbing harness around the midriff comprised of leather straps and quick draws. While wearing it, you can make strength athletic checks to climb vertical surfaces with advantage. Again, super simple stuff that I really like. Decorated, it's just got maybe a holy symbol. I use the holy symbol as an example. The armor can be used as a spell casting focus for clerics or paladins. Simple, only 5 gold to do. Insulated was the same thing. We said can't work with breathable. Now it does the same thing. Counts as cold weather gear for overcoming cold temperatures. Locking joints means the hinges can be locked in place. So while wearing it, strength athletic checks to oppose attempts to shove you, you make those at advantage. Muffled, it no longer has disadvantage on dexterity stealth checks. Now that's only available for Brigandine, which is the equivalency of half plate. Quick release claps, you can doff it as an action rather than taking up to 10 minutes for plate mail. Reinforced, right? While wearing it, critical damage you take from non-magical attacks is reduced by 3, only for heavy armor. Runic, which we'll talk about in a second. This armor or shield can be imbued with rune magic. And then lastly was spiked. All right, it adds barbs for medium or heavy. It can deal extra damage. Okay, I'm going through a lot more of this than I had originally planned, but it's good stuff. Same thing with weapons, right? We have other options that can be applied to weapons. So you can see this here. I don't think it's down here. No. Okay, so it's up here, right? Couple of weapon revisions. Bandolier applies to daggers and darts. When making a ranged attack with a weapon that has the bandolier property, you can immediately draw another one as part of the same attack. Concealed applies to certain things: blowguns, darts, hand crossbows, and slings. Advantage on dex stealth, sleight of hand checks to keep it hidden. Limited applies to hand crossbows. Possession of this is restricted in some societies. And siege, great clubs and mauls, they deal double damage to structures, and they've added the heavy property to great clubs to reflect that. Simple little tweaks that make a lot of sense. And then we have the same thing with the idea of upgrading weapons as well. I'm not going to go through things as in-depth because you'll see the concept pretty quickly. But basically, it's the same thing. You go through a process to improve that. So we have balanced, right? It's a +1 to attack roll with the weapon. Then we have critical, and it's based on the type of weapon it is. It scores a critical hit on 1 lower. So it normally scores on a 20. Now it scores on a 19. Runic is the same thing. Apply that. Silver, we already know. Keen here is a +1 to damage, and that could be applied to either melee or ranged weapons. So again, balanced is a +1 to attack. We have one that's a +1 to damage. And then we have some things here, right? Brutal, if they have meet a certain thing here, one of the earlier ones, when you roll maximum damage, you can basically, the dice will explode. Enchanted, this can only be applied to arcane quarterstaffs. They can use this a +1 to spell attack rolls. Flanged is for a different group of things. It can inflict damage to armor. Magical, if it's silver, it now just basically becomes magical for the purposes of overcoming damage resistance, while it does not apply any extra mechanical differences as far as +1s or, minus or +1s to attack and damage. It's just now considered magic. Sawtooth, the daggers deal extra damage because the dagger is sawtoothed. Superior, it basically bumps up the damage threshold. And then, there's Masterwork, higher tiers, and you can see the base cost for the second tier is 1,000. These last ones are 10,000, increasing the DC of a spellcasting focus or adding an additional +1 to attack, being truly Masterwork. We have a whole section on specialty arrows. Again, as someone who used to love to play archers almost exclusively in D&D, I love the fact that between all of the books, there was the opportunity for you to basically be Green Arrow or Hawkeye and have a ton of different arrowheads to do different tasks, right? To have, frog's legs armor, I think, or whatever they were called, ones that had like a sharpened fork V to cut through ropes alone, ones that were signal arrows. There were even healing arrows back in the old days where you could shoot someone and it actually healed them, which was awesome because you could be a non-healing character and just have healing arrows or arrows that delivered spell effects. Obviously, that's not to the case here. These are more realistic arrows in the sense of a real-world scenario like broadheads or blunted arrows or bodkin arrows. But either way, still good stuff. As well as darts and bolts for blowguns and, crossbows. And then my point earlier about specialty materials. Here we have adamantine, cold iron, dark wood, deep crystal, dragonhide, ironwood, mithril, and shadow silk. They actually go ahead, and there's a note on mithril and adamantine here. This replaces the existing statistics for adamantine or mithril in your game. I'm not going to do that when I apply this in my game because I already have had those properties exist in the world as they were. But in this option, it does, it reduces damage. Adamantine reduces incoming damage sources. And then it's a +1 to AC for the shields. And then it can't be destroyed, damaged, or suffer from wear, as opposed to immunity to critical hits. Again, several different options for specialty materials. There's a whole section on dealing with if you want to add more realistic wear and tear and damage and repair to armor, weapons, and shields, which I don't know if I'm going to get to because that's another level of tracking, but if that's something you want to make a more realistic version of in your game, they have it here for you. And let's jump in to Chapter 2, which is the idea of runic magic and applying runes to your armor, or rune stones. So, in order to use a rune stone, it must first be affixed to a piece of equipment with the runic tag, so you have to get that added up front. Only equipment with a runic tag can channel that magic. A creature must be attuned to the item to gain the benefit of the rune, so now we're adding attunement. Maximum of 1 runestone can be affixed to a piece of equipment at a time. A runestone can be removed from a piece of equipment, but it is destroyed in the process. For magical effects created by runestones, your spell attack modifier and spell save DC use the ability modifier of the weapon used for the attack. So if it's a ranged weapon, it uses dex. If it's a strength weapon, it uses strength. And there's a section about awarding runestones as rewards, how to identify runestones using the identify spell or otherwise, a new tool proficiency in runesmithing, and it's written in such a way that it mimics the way tools are written in Xanathar's, which I like. And then crafting requirements for making runestones of common all the way through legendary, so you can see how that works, and it's your proficiency bonus plus your dex or intelligence modifier for your runic tools check. There's stuff about runesmithing guilds, and then the various, it's very in-depth here. The level of, your ownership within the guild, right? Are you a journeyman, a grandmaster, and your test item that you need to be able to craft to advance to the next level of the runic guild? Guys, this is very well thought out. I'm a big fan of this. I know I've stated that a lot, but it really is well done, and I highly think if you're a dungeon master, I really think you should employ this in your game. Now, maybe you have your own set, and I understand that, but if someone else is going to do all this work for you, why not just use it? Okay, so let's move on. Downtime activities for guild masters. Tool feats right here. We have an runesmithing adept feat. And then we also have unique artificer infusions based on runesmith magic. Enhanced runic defense, enhanced runic weapon. And here we have our runestones. We have common, uncommon, rare, very rare, and legendary for both weapons and armor. So what I'm going to do is I think we're going to grab you maybe one from each tier for weapons and armor. Maybe not. We'll see. So I'm going to make a list because I didn't actually do this ahead of time because I didn't think this through, but let's go ahead. So we're going to go weapons, armor. Let's do warrior. We'll do serpent. We'll do death because that sounds cool. We'll do wolfsbane. And we'll do tempest. And then we'll do, for armor, thief. We'll do daywalker. I wonder if that does. We'll do phoenix. We'll do overshield. And we'll do mime. Okay? Sound good? We're going to go through these. All right. So they're written in alphabetical order here. So our first up is going to probably be daywalker. So this is for armor, a suit of armor with a helmet or hood. While wearing this armor with a hood drawn, you are unaffected by sunlight sensitivity. Nice and simple. I like it. Death for a weapon. Whenever you kill a small or medium humanoid with an attack with this weapon, it dies. It rises immediately as a zombie under your control with 1 hit point as per the anime Dead spell. The creature uses the zombie statistics that remains for 1 minute, after which time it collapses and dies. Very cool. I'm a big fan. All right, let's see. Mime was a legendary. This runic stone is immediately able to mimic the properties of magic items. A creature can spend a short rest focusing on a magic item and this runestone. The magic item must be of the same type as the equipment to which the rune is affixed. Focus usually takes the form of quiet meditation or other appropriate activity. If the short rest is interrupted, the copying process fails. Otherwise, at the end of the short rest, the runestone gains the properties of the magic item, excluding any fixed bonuses such as those to attack and damage rolls, spell save DC, and armor class. If the property has charges, it is copied with no charges remaining. Only the properties of one magic item can be copied at a time. The mimicking process overwrites any existing copied properties. The process automatically fails when attempting to mimic the properties of artifacts. Again, very well thought out. I am a fan. Overshield. While you're wearing this armor, you gain 8 temporary hit points at the start of each of your turn, as a literal overshield. Phoenix. When you reduce to 0 hit points and start dying while wearing this armor, the rune immediately casts Fireball centered on you. At the start of your next turn, instead of rolling a death save, you regain 1d6 hit points. Once you can't use it again until the following dawn. Next up, we have Serpent here. When you hit a creature with this weapon, you can attempt to poison it. The target must succeed on a con save or be poisoned for a minute. The creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of their turns. On success, it ends once per dawn here. Then we've got Tempest. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with this weapon, it takes an extra d10 lightning damage. An arc of lightning then leaps from the target to as many as 3 additional creatures of your choice within 30 feet. That's awesome. Thief, a favorite of cut purses and thieves. Once per day while wearing this armor, you can reroll a failed dex check. If you do so, you must use the new roll. And lastly, we have Warrior. Popular among mercenaries and soldiers, where this runestone allows you to keep your sword in hand while wielding any weapon. You can't be disarmed of your weapon while conscious. And Wolfsbane. In darkness, the unsheathed blade or head of this weapon sheds moonlight, creating bright light in a 15-foot radius and dim light in an additional 15 feet. In addition, when you hit a shape changer with this weapon, it takes an extra 2d6 damage and must succeed on a con save. On a failure, it immediately assumes its true form if it was shape changed, and it can't shape change again until the end of its next turn. And then lastly, there's some, for those of you who really like math, there are some weapon analysis about the different weapon up. I mean, this is, I didn't even dive into this, but how to determine, where the balance lands and the math of it, and then a quick reference guide for the various upgrades, and then runic probability tables if you want to add them as rewards, and then an FAQ. I mean, that was like 20 minutes of me just talking about this. And honestly, I gushed the entire time because I think it's awesome. I would love to, I don't know if these folks have put out anything additional on the DMs Guild, but if they do, it's gotta be, if it's anything like this, it's probably amazing. I'm looking right now just to tell you in the meantime. Oh, they released a Oath of Battle for Paladin, a Paladin Sacred Oath. It's the best copper seller. I haven't taken a look at it. But I want less things like subclasses and races from these folks and more stuff like this guide, the Armorer's Handbook, because this is great. It is $9.99 on the DM scale, $9.95, so it is an investment. But the fact that it has all 5 stars from its existing 16 ratings, and I can't stop gushing about it, and I've probably been more animated in this video than you guys have seen me in a whole bunch, I highly recommend you pick it up. There will be a link in the description where you can go and pick it up. If you like it and you do review it, let them know Nerd Immersion is how you found out, so that they're aware that I'm out there doing the good work. I will let them know that I put this video out as well. But it just it it just checks all the boxes for me. Like, this is what I want in my game. I've established a bunch of existing well-known smiths in my universe. They're gonna have all of this access. They're gonna be rune smiths. It's gonna be awesome. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.